So it's early evening. I've returned home from work, and after a long hard day, I'd like to read some poetry. In my last video, I introduced the book that I had been reading out of, and also introduced a new book that I'd like to also read some poetry from. This book was first published in 1921. This is the 4th edition and was published in 1927. As I mentioned in the previous video, there is a wonderful inscription there from E.A. Wood that was written in Xmas 1929. So I think this would have been a Christmas present for somebody. So since I posted my video yesterday, I have read quite a few poems within this book, and I'm really struggling to actually connect with a few of them. I think the 1920s was a different time, and I think I am drawn to poetry that feels a little deeper, that uncovers some truths about what it is to be human, that can't be uncovered through the normal use of language. I really like poetry that delves into the dark places that are in all of our hearts. And there's very little of that in here. It's a lot of odes to nature, some religious verse, love poems, very saccharine, and I think it's really is a product of its time. It was also produced for reading in schools, so there's not going to be anything in here that's a little racy or controversial. And obviously our understanding of what controversial is now is very different to what it was back then. So that has really made me reflect on the previous book that I've been reading from, because a lot of the poems in there really speak to me and I'm really enjoying. And I really thoroughly enjoyed the Walt Whitman poem that I read to you yesterday. And I think obviously Walt Whitman is an extraordinarily famous poet, and I actually had a couple of people watch my video from yesterday, which is extraordinary. It's wonderful to actually have received some views. It's a real bonus, and I also received 2 comments on that video, and I am so thankful that somebody watched little old me reading a poem and took the time to comment. And one of those comments was about the book noises, so the noises of me touching the books. And I really appreciated that because it reminded me how poetry is a whole experience, and how we enjoy poetry can be very different from person to person. But there's a lot more to our experience of poetry than the words on the page. And the sound of fingers on paper, the sound of pages being turned, there is something really conjures a feeling. For me, it brings a feeling of safety and security, almost childlike, really, in a way, of remembering being in bed and being read to. And there's just something really that feels safe and warm and cozy and fuzzy. And I hope that I can bring some of that feeling to my recitation of these poems. But there's also so much more to it as well, that a video just can't bridge. Books have a smell to them, particularly old books, and that's really enigmatic and conjures up so much. Thank you for that comment. I really appreciated it. And today I'm feeling a little tired, and there wasn't much in this book that I connected with, but there was one poem that I really quite liked, more because it was a bit of a horror poem, I suppose. I know I'm a bit late for Halloween. The Listeners by Walter De La Mare. Is there anybody there? Said the traveller, knocking on the moonlit door. And the horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest's ferny floor. And a bird flew up out of the turret above the traveller's head. And he smote upon the door again a second time. Is there anybody there? He said. But no one descended to the traveller. No head from the leaf-fringed sill leaned over and looked into his grey eyes, where he stood perplexed and still. But only a host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight to that voice from the world of men. Stood thronging the faint moonbeams on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in an air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveller's call. And he felt in his heart their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse mewed cropping the dark turf neath the starred and leafy sky. For he suddenly smote on the door, even louder, and lifted his head. Tell them I came, and no one answered, that I kept my word, he said. Never the least stir made the listeners, though every word he spake fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house from the one man left awake. Aye, they heard his foot upon the stirrup, and the sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone. I really enjoyed that poem. Just the spookiness of it, the ghosts within the house, and why the traveller was coming. What word was he keeping? I really love that you could invent a whole story around this poem if you liked. So thank you for listening to me read a poem to you, and I look forward to reading another poem to you next time.